Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back, because today I'm going to give you guys my list for my favorite movies of 2024 now that we are at the very end of the year, which is crazy. Another year's gone by, and I know I've missed out on the back half of last year with videos, so you didn't get to see my best movies of 23 video, but here, because I'm here making videos again, it is the end of 2024. I decided let's end the year off with a best movies of 2024 video. And before I give you my top 10 picks for my favorite movies that I've seen so far this year, here are some honorable mentions I have. But before I do that, let me know down below in the comments, what are your favorite movies of the year? I would love to know that. And with that said, here are my honorable mentions: Monkey Man, Civil War, Terrifier 3, Longlegs, Bad Boys Ride or Die, Twisters, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, A Quiet Place Day 1, The Fall Guy, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, The Room Next Door, Late Night with the Devil, We Live in Time, Saturday Night, and Deadpool and Wolverine. These are movies that I love and I really enjoyed, although they didn't quite crack my top 10 of the year. So with that said, here's the top 10. In 10th place is Transformers 1. Far and away the best Transformers movie. I've enjoyed the last two Transformers movies with Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast. And as far as the Bayformers movie eras go, I am not really a fan of Bayformers, but I do enjoy Transformers 2007 and Transformers Dark of the Moon. And so is the 80s movie. But Transformers 1 is far and away the best Transformers movie ever put to screen. It has a compelling narrative with the origin stories of Orion Pax and DC-16 getting involved in something that leads to them becoming Optimus Prime and Megatron before the events of the Autobots and the Decepticons forming, before the war, before all of the things we know about Transformers taking place. It is a movie that balances fun and heart, sincerity with bombastic and awesome spectacle that the Transformers movies are known for. It has a really compelling story with some strong character journeys. It is well directed by Josh Cooley, and I love the animation for this movie, and it really does a lot of new things that some of the Transformers movies haven't really gone into as much. And even if some of the movies are very hit or miss in this franchise, I am really happy to say Transformers 1 was one of the biggest surprises of the year, where similar to, like I said, with Wicked, I wasn't really too crazy about the trailers put out for this movie, and then the actual movie itself truly won me over by the very end. The third act of Transformers 1 is the best hour of Transformers in a movie that I have ever seen, and I don't know if we're going to get more sequels to this or not like they plan to, but I really hope so, because Transformers 1, what a movie. I loved it. In 9th place is Inside Out 2. I enjoyed the first Inside Out. I think it is one of the best Pixar movies of the last 10 years. And Inside Out 2 was a sequel that I was curious to see where they were going to take things, with Riley now being a teenager. She is going through transitioning periods with her being a teenager, and I was curious to see what that's going to look like, and how they continue to tell the stories of these emotions and bringing in new emotions that would tell a relatable story, especially in good Pixar fashion. And yet again, I'm really thrilled to say that Pixar knocked it out of the park with Inside Out 2. It's definitely one of the better movies they've put out over the last couple of years. It is very sincere, has a really good message about growing up. The emotions are just as fun as ever, with the side emotions here, beyond joy and sadness, getting even bigger roles this time around than they did in the first. And Maya Hawke's anxiety is an MVP. I loved her in this movie. She is a great character to play off of Joy and what she's trying to do. And so, as with the animation being just as stunning as they've always been from Pixar. And it is a movie with a whole lot of heart, a whole lot of charm, and a lot of fun, while also having some really serious moments that are properly executed and properly developed, that feel really impactful. And it is a really moving story from beginning to end. I like this even more than I thought I was going to, considering how high of a bar it was set from the first Inside Out. And while Inside Out 1 is still better than Inside Out 2, I do think this is a worthy follow-up to that movie. In 8th place is Hitman. This is the best Netflix movie of the year by far. Glenn Powell is also on a hot streak right now ever since Top Gun Maverick, and good for him, because I'm a fan of him, and he is amazing in this movie, and so is his chemistry with the wonderful Adria Arjona.
Let's go! Let's go.
The story of this psychology professor who works with the police as this hitman to catch people who are trying to put out hits, I really enjoyed. And so as when he meets Audrey Arjona's character, and it ignites a chain of events that goes into very different directions than what either of them are expecting. It is a really great movie to me. I think it is very funny. It is very cleverly written, and the plotting of everything I think is very well done. It is a story that is simple, but it is very straightforward. And where this movie goes with both of the characters in this predicament, I think is very interesting, with the ex-boyfriend trying to get back in her life, trying to get back at her. He's involved and he can't blow his cover, and so is trying to hide his double life of being this professor, this hitman, and so is who he really is to all the people involved in his life. I think it is a really great story, and it is well put together, and it's really well shot. It is funny. It is well acted by the two lead performers, and the ending is not at all what I imagined this movie to go into. But as it stands, I really enjoyed Hitman, and as a fan of Glenn Powell, this is definitely one of my favorites of the year. In seventh place is Wicked. Wicked is one of my favorite Broadway musicals of all time, and I've been hearing about a movie adaptation off of Wicked for a while, and while I wasn't a big fan of the trailers for this movie, I was very happy to say that this movie truly won me over.
This just feels right.
It is fun, lively, the way it brings the first half of this musical to life in a movie, and with how it tells the story about Elphaba and Glinda before they became the characters we knew from the original Wizard of Oz. I thought they did a really great job. The duo leading performances from Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are fantastic. The musical numbers are well adapted into this movie, with Popular, Defying Gravity, Dancing Through Life. All of them are very lively, and they're really fun in this movie.
I like it. Hell, I love it.
And it is a movie that's bringing Oz to life really well before the events of Dorothy coming into Oz, and it has a lot of emotional weight behind it with the character arc of Elphaba, and it is really compelling. By far one of my favorite character journeys of the year, and it is just a really fun movie to watch for its runtime. And as a musical fan, and as a Wizard of Oz fan and a fan of the musical, I thought they did a really great job of adapting the first half of this story into the movie. And the third act of this movie left me in awe of how they were able to adapt this whole thing into the big screen. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and cannot wait for Wicked for Good next year.
Give me all you got.
In sixth place is A Real Pain. I've been hearing about this movie for a very long time this year, and I got to see this movie at a film festival last month before it had a wider theatrical window, and man, it delivered. This is a heartwarming tale about David and Benji who go on this trip to Europe, especially in Poland, to reunite for the first time in many years, and with a lot of family baggage at play. And so as them on this tour that would culminate in them going to the house that their grandmother lived in before World War II took place. It is a really heartwarming tale. The chemistry and dynamic between Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg is top notch. It is relatable. It is believable. It's really sweet to see. And being a fan of Kieran Culkin since Succession, which is a fantastic TV show, this movie does have his character have a little bit of the Roman Royisms in here, but he does it really well. He is by far one of the funniest movie characters of the year for me. And Jesse Eisenberg knocked it out of the park as a director, and so as being an actor in this movie. I think he is just as good as Kieran Culkin is in this movie, with some really Oscar-worthy scenes. And it is a really funny movie that never fails to get me to laugh at the situations here, especially as far as international travel and the dynamic these two go on. And so as this little adventure they go on while they're overseas, I think it is a really touching tale with some great messaging, with a lot of reality and warmth to it. And I really enjoyed what Jesse Eisenberg was able to pull off with A Real Pain. It is a fun movie. It is really hilarious to watch, but it's also really touching, and it balances all of those things really nicely. And by the end, I was very moved by it. So A Real Pain, great movie, and I highly recommend it. In fifth place is Anora. Anora is one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. I didn't even know about this movie till the summertime, and what a movie this was. It is not for the faint of heart, but for what it was, I loved it. It is also, similar to A Real Pain, one of the funniest movies I have seen all year, especially in the middle chunk of this movie. Mikey Madison, who I've been a fan of ever since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thought she is incredible as Annie here, from being a movie about this sex worker in Brooklyn who meets this guy who might be the Prince Charming to her Cinderella, and they go off on this big relationship journey that really made it seem like this could be what she's been yearning for so long. And then his family get involved, and they're not approving of this relationship and want it annulled. And what does she do about it as she's within everything? It is a really emotionally powerful movie. It is really good at tugging the heartstrings, especially in the third act of this movie when things go in a certain direction that I was not prepared for. And from the performances here and the characters, it's really well written, really funny with Toros especially. And it takes these situations and makes it feel very real, believable, and authentic, to where even if you're watching a movie, this is something that feels like could happen to someone else. And especially with playing a big twist on the Cinderella story in this fashion, I think they do it really nicely. And Mikey Madison, stellar year for her, stellar performance from her, by far one of the best performances I've seen this year. And for being a movie that has a lot of things to say, does it really well with some great characters, a really strong story that starts off really well developing this character all the way till its powerful resolution that really left me in tears. I loved Anora. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend giving it a shot, because it is a lot, but it is a really great movie. It is hilarious with some of the funniest things I've seen all year, and it is also a really touching and emotionally powerful movie. In fourth place is Challengers. I had not seen a Luca Guadagnino movie before this, and I'm happy to say that this gave me a pretty good impression of him. And I say pretty good lightly because Challengers is incredible. This is an electrifying movie. The score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is one of the best of the year. It is really memorable. It is iconic as far as movie scores this year goes.
Because I love it in here.
And it matches the scene so well and gives it a different level of intensity to it. And on top of that, the trio are excellent here, from Zendaya, Mike Feist, and Josh O'Connor. Every single one of them knock it out of the park with some of the best performances I have seen in their entire careers, especially Zendaya. It is one of the best shot movies of the year. The cinematography and how they shoot the tennis scenes is impeccable. The pacing's on point. The story is compelling. The way it tells everything in this order. And telling the story about these two best friends who meet this girl, relationship stuff ensues, and the two best friends break away, start to pretty much resent each other. But then years later, a tennis competition's at play, and these two guys have to play off against one another in there. It is a really strong story, executed really well, written very well, really well shot, really funny at points, but also really shocking when it gets to that point.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute detail.
And it culminates in one of the most epic final 15 minutes I have ever seen for a movie all year. My heart was racing like there was no tomorrow in the climax of Challengers. It is one of the best movies based off of sports I've seen the last couple of years. And I thought Challengers is one of the biggest surprises of the year. I did not get to see this in theaters, and this is the one movie I wish I saw in theaters because, man, Challengers was amazing. In third place is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This movie truly lives up to the word of exhilarating. Whereas Mad Max Fury Road is one of the greatest action movies ever made, and George Miller was operating on all cylinders with Fury Road, he reapplies that same energy and effect for Furiosa to this time, it is different from a story structure standpoint. Whereas Fury Road is a fast-paced, breakneck action movie, this movie is basically a revenge odyssey, and it's a very compelling one, with marvelous performances from Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth as Furiosa and Dementis. This is a riveting revenge story from beginning to end. It has some of the best cinematography I've seen all year. It is distinct, colorful, memorable, apocalyptic, and this tale about a young Furiosa and how we see her evolve over the course of this movie to reach to where we see her by the time Mad Max Fury Road begins. I think it is a very worthy prequel to have as a duo link to Mad Max Fury Road. It is a movie that works really well as a prequel. It is really well structured in its own right, and it is very compelling to see a very different kind of movie in the Mad Max series, where this movie is more about another character more so than Mad Max himself. But Furiosa is a very compelling character in this movie, and with Anya Taylor-Joy's brilliant performance and Chris Hemsworth as the incredible antagonist, this movie was jaw-dropping to see, and the action sequences and spectacle here, like the one on the war rig and so as in the climax, is absolutely riveting. It is well put together. And shows that George Miller is one of the best directors working today as far as directors who have done movies in action. And I think it knocks it out of the park. Even though I still prefer Mad Max Fury Road just a bit more, I still love Furiosa, and it is still one of my favorite movies I've seen so far this year. And I don't know if we're ever going to get another Mad Max movie again after this, but I pray that we do, because not only am I a fan of the franchise and of George Miller, but I love Furiosa, and I do think it is one of my favorites of the year. In second place is Hundreds of Beavers. If you have not heard of this movie before I mentioned the title of the movie, I wouldn't blame you.
What?
But I do highly recommend you watch it, because this is one of the most unique, exciting, and most fun movies I have watched all year. And I only watched it just a couple weeks ago, too. So this one was a late edition. I love Hundreds of Beavers so much. It is one of the funniest movies, not just of the year, but one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. It is a mixture of Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin slapstick comedy, Looney Tunes, especially with a concept of this guy out in the wilderness trying to survive, and he has to face off against pretty much hundreds of beavers.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them.
It is a very original movie. It is a movie that takes so many swings and goes in directions that I never am able to predict before it even happens, all the way till the end of the movie. It is a triumph. It is so funny, from the slapstick to the production to the effects to the sound, and especially with the costumes of how they bring everything to life. It is incredible how this movie is pulled off. It is truly a movie where there's nothing really like it this year. It is hilarious. It is funny. It is inventive. It's creative. It is bursting with energy. And it is just a movie where I was laughing from beginning to end. And I couldn't even tell you a time where it wasn't getting me. And kudos to Hundreds of Beavers for having one of the coolest title reveal drops of all time.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah! Yes! Yes!
You will know it when you see it, but it truly is incredible. So, Hundreds of Beavers, one of the funniest movies I've seen all year, one of the biggest surprises of the year, and it is one of the funniest movies that I have seen in a very long time. I absolutely adored this movie, and I really hope to see this movie grow in reputation as time passes, because Hundreds of Beavers is amazing. But coming in at first place is Madam Web. As Nicole Kidman once said, Madam Web is what movies are all about to go to the theater for. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you care. It has good storytelling, it has good visual effects, it has really strong character arcs that I really feel very pivotal as it goes on. And the best part is it's not even number one on this list because this is one of the worst movies I have ever seen all year. It is an absolute train wreck and I hate it so much. Because in actuality, in first place is Dune Part 2. As the year went on, Dune Part 2 is pretty much standing at the very top of the chain as my favorite movie of 2024. I have been hyped for this movie ever since I first read the book, and it increased after watching Dune Part 1 in theaters, and I never forgot the feeling of watching Dune Part 2 when it was on the big screen. It is absolutely a transcendent experience, and with Denis Villeneuve being one of the best filmmakers working today, this is the best movie he's made from what I have seen. It is visually incredible on screen thanks to the cinematography from Greg Fraser and the production crew behind the scenes. It has some of the most memorable, incredible visual effects I have seen in a sci-fi movie, with marvelous performances from its cast, career best performances from Timothée Chalamet, and with everything that this movie was accomplishing as the second half of the story. And even though it does make a few changes to the story, unlike Part 1 did, I still think Part 2 does a really successful job of telling the story of Paul Atreides transitioning into this person that he ends up as by the end of Part 2. It's monumental the way it transitions into the darkness that everything goes into by the very end. I think is really well done. Austin Butler as Federatha, I think, is a very great character who he delivers a really strong performance in as well. And telling the story between Paul and Chani, these two characters starting to care and bond with one another as they fight the Harkonnens, and so as with Paul going down this path to being this very pivotal character in this war. I think it is done with so much care to detail, with so much energy and so much passion from the cast and crew, with incredible music once again by Hans Zimmer. And as it goes on, it is a really powerful movie on a visual front, and so is on a narrative level. Dune Part 2 is a triumph, one of the best sci-fi movies of the last couple of years, and it is shaping the Dune series up to be the modern day Lord of the Rings in the 2020s, considering how Dune Messiah will play out when that premieres. But my optimism for it is sky high. This is one of my favorite movies of the decade as of right now. And Dune Part 2 is a movie that stuck with me ever since I first watched it in theaters. And man, it is a triumph. And even the spectacle sequences are some of the best I've ever seen. From Paul versus Federatha's knife fight to the Federatha Harkonnen arena fight, and so as with a lot of the spectacle, especially in the climax of this movie. And Paul riding the sandworm is still one of the most iconic scenes of the year for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I absolutely love Dune Part 2 with every fiber of my being. It is a worthy follow-up to Dune Part 1 that does justice to the source material while also being an incredible movie in its own right. So in the end, in first place is Dune Part 2.
I need it!
So yeah, that's my top 10 favorite movies of the year. What are your favorite movies of the year? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to know that. Stay tuned for some more videos I have planned soon. And thank you guys so much for tuning in for me this year. I finally came back after a long break. And even if I didn't put out as many videos as I thought I was going to in the last couple of months, thank you all for watching and sticking with me, and I'm excited to see where next year goes in the year 2025. There's a lot of exciting things to look forward to next year, and I'm really optimistic and excited for it, and I hope you are as well, and I can't wait to see you all. Stick with my channel if you please to do so, and so as to hopefully do a little bit of more new things and variety that I want to do next year. So can't wait for that. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. So please go do it while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And stay tuned for more.